Hello folks, Dom Lawson here, sweating like a proverbial sex offender here in sunny Worthing. It is fucking hot. Not particularly hot outside, just hot in my room, which is in the direct sun all day. It's a little glimpse into why I'm in one of the many reasons why I'm in such a fucking appalling mood constantly. But anyway, so yeah, while I sit here dripping and drinking this ice cold vodka to chill myself out a bit, I'm going to do one of those iron sandwich things for you. Yes, I haven't done many of them recently, but I couldn't be arsed, and now I'm arsing. I am arsed. I don't know how that works. It doesn't work, does it? Really? Anyway, so yeah, today I'm going to talk to you about a band that are, I suppose, the phrase "much maligned" springs to mind, really, and it's an odd one, really. The band is HellYeah. Okay, so. And just saying that will elicit a certain reaction from a lot of people. It's a strange one because obviously, Vinnie Paul was the drummer in Pantera, as we all know, and you would struggle to find somebody in the metal scene that is kind of that receives more goodwill generally from the metal scene as a whole than Vinnie Paul, because obviously, what with Dimebag's appalling death and everything, and everything that Vinnie must have gone through as a result of that. Not to mention the fact that he was the drummer in Pantera, who are one of the most revered and respected metal bands of all time, and one of the most successful. Come to that, it's everybody kind of wants Vinnie to do amazing things and wishes the best for him. Anybody who isn't a complete cunt, anyway. And I think to a certain extent, Dimebag's death did kind of made it kind of difficult in a way to criticise anything that Dimebag was involved in, and by association anything that Vinnie was involved in, really. And I think as a result, you do find a lot of people speaking very positively about the Damage Plan album, which, although it was all right, it wasn't as bad as all that, but it was nowhere near as good as anything Pantera had done, and was a bit stodgy and had a couple of lame tunes on it. But anyway, it was okay, it was certainly, in terms of the guitar playing, it's hard to fault, but it didn't have that spark that Pantera had. And so when HellYeah came out, however many years ago it was, with their self-titled debut album, I think it was one of those things that a lot of people really wanted to like it, and they did okay for them, actually, to be fair. I think America is kind of more their target audience than Europe, really, and probably was then as well. But it was one of those things, I really wanted to like it because, for one, I'm a big, massive Pantera fan, and also I'm a fan of Mudvayne, and a lot of Mudvayne stuff I think is really underrated and cool, a very distinctive band, really, that were, I guess, unfairly criticised, or maybe they asked for it, I don't know, but by dressing up as a bunch of multicoloured gonks early on, they kind of stitched themselves up somewhat, because their music was actually really good, and Chad Gray's a top bloke, a really intelligent, talented geezer, so... Anyway, so that combination of Mudvayne, Pantera, and a couple of the guys from Nothing Face, I believe, or one of the guys from Nothing Face. Not really a fan of Nothing Face, to be honest, but they're okay, if you like that kind of thing. Not rubbish, but only stretch the imagination, just not really my bag. I was hoping it was going to be awesome, and the name of the band, HellYeah, does kind of give you a clue, really, as to which direction they were going in. But it was just the first album just wasn't that great, I didn't think, and I thought, it was very much meat and potatoes kind of whiskey drinking metal, and there's nothing wrong with that, actually, in a sense, because in a way that's what Pantera did, but Pantera had the additional virtue of having four extraordinarily talented people combining, and just a chemistry that will never be replicated, to make something that was absolutely phenomenal and groundbreaking and exciting. Whereas HellYeah doing it just wasn't, it was obviously a bunch of guys hanging out and making music together, and it was kind of cool and everything, but the spark, I don't think, was really there on that first album, and it was fairly forgettable. The second album, Stampede, again, probably, I don't know, marginally better than the first one, but just not something that I don't know, people joke about it as being, it's kind of dumb redneck metal, and just not, almost purposefully stupid, and singing songs about drinking whiskey and fighting and whatever, it's in the same way that Five Finger Death Punch and it was that other band, Adrenaline Mob, with that thing that Mike Portnoy's doing at the moment, Adrenaline Mob, which I've got to say, as much as I've got a lot of love for Mike Portnoy and everything he did in Dream Theater, and I love Flying Colours and a lot of the other prog stuff that he's done, Adrenaline Mob really is just awful. It's just, it's for people who think Five Finger Death Punch are a bit too cerebral, and HellYeah kind of fitted into that kind of thing. It was like crushing metal, but with a kind of southern rock twist, and loads of people wearing Stetsons and going yee-haw and drinking whiskey, which is kind of probably doesn't connect so well with the European sensibility and mentality, really, I suppose. I think that's the thing. It's like, the amount of grown adults I know who use American teen slang all the time, you'd think that kind of thing would be immediately embraced over here, but HellYeah didn't really connect, I don't think, and despite all the goodwill that goes towards Vinny. So I think by the time it come around to the third album, Band of Brothers, which is out now or out shortly, which is what I'm going to talk to you about now after 6 minutes of talking shit, I think HellYeah really need. I mean, they've made a lot of progress. They toured with Avenged Sevenfold and Stone Sour over here. And certainly as a live band, I've heard a lot of people say, "Well, I don't like the records, but I really enjoyed them live." But I think they really needed to make an album that would, kind of make a link between all the stuff that they've done in the past, particularly Pantera, and the modern era. It's very obvious that this is Vinnie Paul's band now. There's not going to be a Pantera reunion, I don't think, and nor should there be, really. And I think it's. I think with Phil Anselmo doing Down and his solo stuff and God knows what else, and it's down to Vinnie Paul to kind of in many ways keep the Pantera flag flying, and obviously he unveiled that previously unreleased song from the Vulgar Display sessions, which was great, and so that was really cool. But I think HellYeah is him flying the flag for the spirit of Pantera in many ways, and so the fact that the music didn't really match up to that kind of made it a bit of a struggle to listen to at times, really, and I'm not really a band I've really been that bothered with. So there you go. With all due respect to everyone involved, it's just not my thing. I'm not going to sit here and go, "Oh, it's fucking shit," because that's what people say when they don't really have an opinion and just want to kind of impress you. I think there are merits to the first two HellYeah albums. They're just not records that I would necessarily want to listen to again. However, Band of Brothers. Well, the first thing I heard from Band of Brothers was "War in Me," which you've probably heard, and it was on YouTube. And really, there's no getting around it. It sounds like Pantera. I mean, there's no point in saying it sounds like a shit version of Pantera, because it doesn't. It sounds like Pantera. It sounds like a really good Pantera track. And if that had been on Cowboys from Hell or Vulgar Display of Power, people would be falling over themselves to say how fucking awesome it was. It's got those kind of riffs on it. It's the best thing, I think. One of the best things about this record is that Vinny's gone back to the drum sound that everybody knows him for. The drum sound that he had on Vulgar Display and Far Beyond Driven. And it's just instantly recognisable as him on the drums anyway. He's one of those drummers, the sign of a truly great drummer is that you can tell when it's them playing, and War in Me just had that really aggressive, no nonsense, none of the southern rock bits or fannying about that went on previous HellYeah records. It was just straight ahead brutal metal with a catchy chorus and a big fat grooves, and that's kind of what we want Vinny to be doing. I think that's certainly what I want him to be doing, and it was brilliant. And I was like, oh, brilliant. I hope the rest of the album's as good as this. Well, I'm trying to unplug something without making a horrible electric noise. The truth is that Band of Brothers is by far the best HellYeah album to date. It is of the three. I've played it probably 15 times now. Now I doubt I've played either of the other two more than twice. It's a crushing modern metal album, and I think the important thing about it is that yes, a lot of it sounds like Pantera, but in a good way. It's not, he's just trying to. I mean, for one, if anybody should be entitled to make a record that sounds like Pantera, it should be Vinnie Paul. Surely, him returning to the style that made him successful is common sense. It's not cynical at all. It's like, well, sorry, but he invented that fucking sound with his brother, and to be fair, he should be entitled to play it. I mean, this album is full of amazing fat groove metal riffs, and it's the only criticism I can level at it on the riff front is that they don't quite, sometimes don't quite reach the heights of Dimebag stuff, but then that's asking the impossible anyway. So many of those, things like Walk and Mouth for War and Slaughtered and God Becoming, there's some of the best loved riffs of all time, and so distinctive. But there's loads of them on this album that are fucking brilliant, and what really comes across, I think, listening to this record, I mean, the production is, again, pure Pantera. It really does sound like a Pantera record in that sense, but it still has that HellYeah kind of trademark to it. So it's not like they've just made an album that's desperately trying to sound like Pantera. It's a HellYeah album, but it's tapping into that really streamlined, focused, kind of intense groove metal aggression thing that Pantera always had, and it suits them perfectly, and it actually suits them a lot better than what they've been doing before. Chad Gray's vocals are a lot more aggressive, although he's still doing some really cool melodic stuff. You know, I mean, you either like his voice or you don't. I do, so there you go. Fuck off. And the lyrics are still, I mean, you know, to be fair, Phil Anselmo's lyrics were a lot darker and more twisted, I think, than anything that HellYeah were likely to produce, and that's what, you know. That's what made Phil so distinctive and still makes him distinctive. But there's some great, I mean, the lyrics on this, although, yes, sometimes there are bits that make you think, oh, God, you know, they've just got pissed and written that. But actually, in a good way. I mean, the title track, Band of Brothers, is very much a song about being in a band on the road and, you know, these are my brothers and fuck you if you don't like it. And it's not, you know, they're not making any great intellectual... you know, you're not going to get any great intellectual insights from this album. That's not the point. It's a fucking good time heavy metal record designed as a perfect soundtrack for getting shit-faced and jumping around at a sweaty gig somewhere. It's, you know, I think if you think you're above that, then fine. You know, don't buy it, don't listen to it. Absolutely, I'm not above that. I like drinking beer and listening to heavy metal, and the fact that I might also read a philosophy book every now and then, I don't really, but you know. The fact that I don't read, the fact, oh God, see, so I'm just trying to make a point about how I'm relatively intelligent, and then I can't even find a way of saying it, so maybe I'm not, I'm just a fuckwit, but anyway, there you go. The point being that, you know, I might fancy myself as being relatively bright, but at the same time, there's a lot to be said for having, you know, for being entertained by meat and potatoes, metal, and songs about drinking. I don't see a problem with that at all, you know. If you don't like AC/DC, then I never want to come to a house party around your place, because, you know, what is the point of you, really? So yeah, it fits into that, you know. I mean, there's a song in it called Drink, Drank, Drunk. I mean, I think if anybody else was playing drums on it, I'd probably think it was ridiculous, but it's just great, you know. It's just a great song about being in a metal band and getting pissed, you know. So let's get drunk till we fall down. Let's get drink, drank, drunk right now. I mean, it's not poetry, it's not clever, but it's. I think if you've had half a bottle of Jack Daniels and 5 pints of lager and you're at a gig watching HellYeah and they play that, you're probably going to sing along, unless you're dead inside. And I am dead inside and I'd still sing along, so there you go. There's a song, some of these songs are brilliant actually. Dig Myself a Hole, that's a really good one. I mean, there's no point in me going through all the tracks on this record because you need to hear it for yourself. But I think the point is that HellYeah have made a really, really strong metal album. There's no one else out there doing this kind of stuff. You know, there are bands that incorporate bits of Pantera into what they do and try to reproduce that. But it doesn't sound like Pantera because it hasn't got Vinnie Ball playing the drums on it, for one. And they're not trying to rip off Dimebag. In many ways, it seems like a kind of almost like a subconscious tribute to him because a lot of the riffs are things that you could imagine he would have written. I mean, for one, I think this album's better than the Damageplan record. You know, I think it's a really strong album. It's the first HellYeah album that I've actually wanted to listen to more than twice. It's got some great moments on it, and even there's one or two filler tracks, I would say, but really, I just think it's a good, fun metal album, and I think there's a lot to be said for stuff that doesn't try too hard to be clever and just goes for the jugular and kind of ticks a couple of boxes and goes, there you go, massive riffs, shout along choruses, Vinnie Paul playing the drums, and let's face it, there aren't many better drummers than Vinnie Paul. And you know, let's all have a massive party, get hammered, maybe do a bit of barbecuing, and wear Stetsons and listen to HellYeah. I don't know. I think if you're going to be a snob about it, then that's fine. Don't listen to it. I don't give a fuck anyway. I'm sure they couldn't. But if you want to enjoy yourself and you like heavy metal, then I recommend the new HellYeah album to you with considerable enthusiasm. I think it's fantastic. And will it be in my top 20 of the year at the end of the year? Oh, probably not. I don't know. I mean, there's far too many amazing albums coming out this year. But I think for the first time, I actually want to go and see HellYeah live because I want to hear these songs. I think they're great. And you know, Dimebag would approve. I mean, that might seem like a corny thing to say and like an easy word, you know. I can justify everything I've just said by evoking the spirit of Dimebag, but I think Dimebag would love this record. You know, it's got his spirit in it, and I think that's what's in many ways what's important. So if you're a Pantera fan and you've been disappointed by HellYeah so far, at the very least give this album a go. I think, you know, it's not going to be, you're not going to prefer it to Vulgar Display of Power, chances are, but I don't think HellYeah would pretend that you are. You know, it's a new era. It's 20 years old, and they're doing a different thing. But it's got that spirit, and I think that really comes across. So there you go. Hell yeah, Band of Brothers. This is actually Crown Royal whiskey that I've had purified. I've decided now. It's definitely not water because it's really hot. So yeah, Band of Brothers. Hell yeah! I wish I hadn't said it like that. Anyway, yeah, give it a listen. It's heavy metal. It's not fucking rocket science, folks. Right, more of this bollocks soon. Cheers.